My name is Miriam Mojgan. I'm a Secretary General of the Bled Strategic Forum, and I welcome you on behalf of the organizer, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also Center for European Perspective. Last year, we organized this Young Bled Strategic Forum for the first time, and this room was half full. Now I see it's almost full. It's quite full, and if it goes like this, next year we will organize it in Sankarev Dome. We are very happy because it's quite a popular and quite a lot of interest for this event. And I'm really happy there's so much talent in this room coming from Central Europe, from Mediterranean, from Western Balkans, Middle East. And I thank my colleague Andrei Kiran, who helped organize this, and also Irnea Forschner and Polona Mal, who were really working hard on this to happen. And I also thank my team of students who became part of our team, Milica Couture, Marko Mauer, and for the first time, Tamara Juricic. This year, Young Bled Strategic Forum is hosting some members of the Global Changemakers. This is a program by British Council. The group is based on 3 pillars: learning, doing, and advocacy. The aim of the program is to empower youth to catalyze positive social change, and I thank James Hampson, who's somewhere here from British Council. Thank you, James, for bringing those impressive young leaders to Bled. We have prepared three wonderful panels with great speakers and impressive moderators. And I don't think Dr. Busek minds being part of the Young Bled Strategic Forum. We will talk about the young and the restless in the Western Balkans. Eurostat revealed that 25% increase in youth employment across Europe in the last 2.5 years. And the number of the Western Balkans are even more staggering. More than 50% of young people are without work. That's I found in some article posted on the Young Bled Strategic Forum Facebook. We will hear some young leaders here present to talk about hope, perspective for themselves and for the region. The second panel will deal with the ones that already have some work experience, and they belong to the so-called, you belong to the so-called digital native generation. And you were born in the world of the internet and are bringing different skills to the workplace, different skills that our generation, that are still generation of digital immigrants, are kind of learning. And this creates challenges and opportunities that could have will have a positive impact in the world we live. And the last panel is kind of a mixture of the two, you know, the progress of the information age and also the restless and young. We'll talk about the Arab revolutions and the changes that began in the Arab world. And we are still witnessing some increasing instability in the region, and we have a really great group of speakers to be on the panel. You will obviously have a fascinating afternoon, and also there's a reception waiting for you. I've checked in the morning that there is a Facebook page of young Bled Strategic Forum friends, and there's quite a lot of discussion going on there. Lots of you are very active, posting reports and also helping each other with the, you know, I saw in the morning that someone asked, I need a drive back to Ljubljana, could someone offer me a lift? And this is the Young Bled Strategic Forum all about, to encourage the spirit of friendship, networking, and that you make new friends. And I just do want to mention that those of you who offered to drive back to Ljubljana, you do realize you are not allowed to drink in the evening. So enjoy Young Bled Strategic Forum. enjoy Bled, and if you will be tweeting, this is the passwords, and the Twitter for Bled is hashtag BSF 2012 SI. So enjoy. Now I would like to give floor to one of the most talented diplomats in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of his generation. He is relatively young, but has assumed one of the most important positions in the ministry, being political director. He's involved in decision-making process in the ministry, and I'm honored to welcome Matej Marn to address this audience.
Thanks, Miriam. Thanks, Miriam, for the kind words, and of course it's also my great pleasure to welcome you here in Bled for the second Bled Strategic Forum and address you on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Slovenia. Today we are also beginning the 7th Bled Strategic Forum, which hosted a number of politicians, experts, journalists, businessmen, and fosters intensive debates in its short but rich history. But the real added value of Forum proved to be the exchange of views among the representatives of the next generation, who will design our common future. We have a saying in Slovenia, na mladih svet stoji. It is on you, prospective young leaders and opinion makers, to determine what kind of world you want to live in and to engage vigorously as the architects of the prosperous future for us all. This year's edition of the Young Bled Strategic Forum, as you see it here, has a very up-to-date agenda. Topics for the discussion are applicable in almost all parts of the world, not only related to the regions mentioned here. The world is facing a severe economic crisis. One of the consequences of the situation is higher unemployment rate. Also, Miriam mentioned the unemployment of young generation is the problem of all over the world. It's not only in the Western Balkans or in the Arab world, it's also in the EU and elsewhere. This is why our leaders should give more emphasis on the job creation, especially for the young. It is necessary to ensure not only access to, but also quality of education, which will prepare the young for the demands in the modern labor market. The scarcity of job opportunities combined with a solid education background and technological awareness can bring about a new generation of young leaders. Imaginative, bold, and able to rely on them, you could move mountains. One of the Slovenian mobile operators based one of its campaigns on a slogan that says, "For those who will change the world." We are already changing the world. The young generation started the so-called Arab Spring. Struggle for better and dignified future brought people to the streets. It has clearly shown the potential of the young as a transformational force, mastering modern technologies and giving a completely new dimension to popular mobilization. We have witnessed the emerging power of new social media in the hands of energetic young, emphasizing injustices and demanding social and economic reforms. But the Arab Spring has also taught us that the young were quickly to be surpassed later on in the transition process. They were not prepared or organized enough to keep the momentum going, to build on their success and leverage. The young everywhere should seize the momentum that the Arab civil uprising has given them and understand that dignified and prosperous future does not come to those who wait, but to those who engage constructively and demand accountability. The world is changing, not only in political terms, but also in terms of how we communicate between ourselves and how we interact with the world. New technologies are emerging almost every week, and every single one influences the way we interact. Transfer of information was never so easy and accessible to masses. The new social networks cutting across geopolitical, cultural, linguistic, and other barriers, connecting young in the region, but also globally, are giving voice to those never heard before. Young now have the means and the knowledge to vocalize their demands and exert pressure, focus media attention, and rally vast support for their efforts. That's the forced ruling elites simply cannot overlook. Most of the things that happen in the world today cannot be hidden from the public. That should also give a lot more responsibility to all of us. Misbehavior of authorities, atrocities, violations of human rights, mobbing cannot avoid public scrutiny anymore. That's the positive side. But on the negative side, immediate access to information allows instant criticism and public exposure of individuals, which can make the life of many people miserable without real cause. We all need to learn how to make the best use out of the possibilities that modern technology offers. Every privilege and opportunity comes with responsibility, and it is our task to define that partnership. To address successfully the challenges we face today, it is clear that we need to recognize the needs and aspirations of young population. Commitment must nonetheless continue to come also from the young themselves. We need responsible young people eager to retain a voice, identify expectations, and make them heard. At the same time, we need and should demand the responsibility and encourage long-term vision from leaders to take the young on board in the political, social, and economic reconstruction of our societies. Otherwise, they will face the threat of repeating past mistakes. They have already brought the young to the streets in unprecedented ways in our southern neighborhood. It is important that the young generation keeps its attention to the political life in their respective countries. Young should be the watchdog of the political elites. In current times, the decisions will influence the political and economic landscapes which will remain in place for many years to come. The young generation should therefore be a critical but constructive interlocutor. Responsibility lies not only on the shoulders of politicians, but also on your shoulders. On Thursday, Stephen Hawking addressed the Paralympics in London with the sentence, "Look up at the stars and not down at your feet." So, be bold and be brave. Thank you.
Thank you for these wonderful words. Matej, now I give floor to Dr. Busek and the panel. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Miriam Moskan, for inviting me, yes. But I think it's extremely important that the younger generation is articulating themselves and saying what they expect. Hopefully you will be listened in the coming days and even more in the incoming years. I may say I'm coming from the European Forum Alpbach. This is not an advertisement. It's only telling you that our theme was perspectives and expectations of the young generation. And we had 700 grant holders there out of different countries, Europe, and I think it was an extreme dense discussion. So I think as a start I may give you some questions or perspectives which were said quite straight. Ivan Krastev, who is leading a think tank in Bulgaria, brought out a thesis, and it was interesting but not very optimistic, saying the younger generation is making a revolution that they can achieve the same possibilities as the former generation. His example, a fight in France that the age for retirement should be again 65 and not 67. I think a generation wants to live under the same condition. Side question from my side, can we expect to live under the same conditions as my generation did it? For my generation, I may tell you, we have the expectation that every year it's better. I'm born during the Second World War, but I think we started for sure at low level, but every year I think it was really better. Can we expect that it will be really every year better? For the moment it's not looking like. That's the other thesis. I think every day you can read a new crisis or a new old crisis or whatever. Here I think we have to change the approach, and this is a request to the younger generation. Beg your pardon to speak about old languages, but the word crisis is coming out of the old Greek language from krino, and that means to judge and to decide. Personally, I'm convinced we have no euro crisis, we have no financial crisis, we have no banking crisis, we have a crisis of politics and politicians. I think who is making decisions, who is leading in the right direction? In which way can the young generation influence that it is really happening? Articulation. The third problem, may I say, is, and it was mentioned by Mate Marn excellently, that we are living under new conditions. The next panel after us will deal with what communications is today and what possibilities are really existing here. I think I'm not quite sure that we are at the end of the development, how it can be used. Maybe we are in the beginning, and how can it be used for democracy, for intercommunication between the generations, and so on and so on. I think here might be a generation gap existing, and this, I think, has also to be discussed. Then, concerning the region, and it was bluntly mentioned also in the introductory papers, is the question of jobless. The Balkans or Southeast Europe is not the only part. You have 50% jobless of the young generation in Spain, which I think is also a horrible situation for sure. And we are getting, look to Greece, a special kind of migration to those countries where you can get jobs so far. That's creating also, I think, a lot of problems. And specifically, I think a lot of our students here, we are getting a certain kind of brain drain that we are missing in these countries, the gifted people, because they are going elsewhere, because they are getting a job, better paid, and so on and so on. One, I think, of the big challenges is to create a brain circulation. And I think here we need some preparedness, and we need the right discussion with the politicians, with the public, with the framework conditions, and so on and so on, and how European integration or European Union is moving. Last point from my side, I may say that's for sure a position of my generation. I grew up in a divided Europe, and it was not possible to go to the other side. Former Yugoslavia had specific conditions, partly a little bit better, but also different. If I'm considering visa question and so on and so on, there are some parts of the former Yugoslavia left which are still living under visa conditions. Here I'm mentioning Kosovo, for example. I think here a specific job has to be done. But it's not only a visa question, I think it is a better common understanding, which for sure here is necessary. And this I want to say, and maybe I'm asking our friends here on the panel also to look to the positive side, which chances Europe is offering. I think we all know what is bad, what is not yet done, and so on, but we have to have also a very positive approach. What can we achieve? So far, some points, beg your pardon, but as an oldie, I'm quite happy also to say something to the young generation. And I'm now presenting you the 5 participants. We agreed, or I was asking them, they shall present themselves, because I have a beautiful curriculum vitae of everybody, but maybe you have the feeling you want to this public say some specific on the question, the young and the restless in the Balkans, in which we are restless, for example, would be very interesting. I'm following the alphabetic order. I'm asking Mark Boris Andrijanic, President of Mreža Idej from
Network
Slovenia.
of Ideas. Thank you very much, Dr. Buzek. It's an honor sitting next to you. I must say that Dr. Buzek is not only a great friend of Slovenia, but also an excellent connoisseur of Slovenian wines and culture. I would like to thank our organizers for putting up this excellent event. Thank you very much, dear friends, for coming. My name is, as said before, Mark Boris Andrijanic. I'm a lawyer, a proud Slovenian, and a proud European. I'm pursuing right now a business career in international business, and in some free time, I'm chairing Network of Idea, a student and youth platform established to promote active citizenship and entrepreneurship among Slovenian youth.
He will be restless on this. Very good.
Thank you very much.
I'm asking Ms. Anja Gengo, student at the Faculty of Law, Sarajevo, for sure, Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Thank you very much. I would like to greet you all. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of my country and to discuss such an important question. So as you already heard, I'm a student on my last year at the Faculty of Law, University of Sarajevo. And what is also important for me to know is that I'm engaged in debate for about 7-8 years. So I'm running a debate club at my faculty, and I'm a coordinator for British parliamentary debate for students in my country. So I guess these are all the main questions, and later on you will hear my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next is Mr. Ante Gulin, postgraduate student at the Justinianus Primus Faculty of Law, Cyril Method University, Skopje, Macedonia. Greeks are here, so I had to say former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. As already mentioned, I'm Ante Gulin, a law student, currently taking my master's studies at international relations in the University of Justinianus Primus in Skopje, and I would like to say my gratitude to the organizers for calling me as a panelist here. Besides that, I'm also as a debater not in the university, but in one NGO in Macedonia, Youth Educational Forum, where I work for about 6 years in the field of debate and also as youth activism. And the last project I was working was about students that have only formal education and that actually without a job, without any skills about jobs. So we were making some trainings in order to have them job skills for getting them easier way to find a job. And I will be here to also have a panel discussion and ask anything you're interested in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Martine Alonso Marquis, political assistant of a member of the European Parliament and co-founder of the Cross Border Factory. You have to tell us what it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buzek, and I would like to thank the organizers of Young BSF for having me here today. So, as I was said, my name is Martine Alonso Marquis. I was originally born in Canada, but I've been living in Europe since I was 17-year-old in different European countries. Currently, I work with a Slovenian member of European Parliament, mainly dealing with the Western Balkans, but also the Middle East. And I am the co-founder of a young social enterprise called Cross Border Factory, which is mainly dealing with European intercultural projects. Right now, I'm also finalizing my PhD in international relations, so I don't know if I'm restless, but I'm definitely sleepless.
Okay. Wish you all the best for the future, to finish this as quick as possible. Last but not least, Mr. Mladen Stojadinovic, alumni, Faculty of Political Sciences, University of Belgrade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Busek. I would also like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this conference, in this event. My name is Mladen Stojadinovic and I come from Serbia. I hold a degree in international studies from the Faculty of Political Sciences in Belgrade and also a master's degree in peace studies from the same faculty in Belgrade. Also, I'm volunteering at Transconflict, which is an organization dealing with conflict transformation, especially in the Western Balkans. And I'm also a junior associate of the Center for Peace Studies at the Faculty of Political Science. Also, I was a member of the United Nations Club for many years in Belgrade. That will be it for now. Thank you very much. I yield the floor back.
Thank you very much. We finished the presentation, that you have a feeling who is talking with you. We agreed, or I was asking to agree, that everybody on the panel is giving an introduction of 5 minutes, because altogether that's 25 minutes, and I think we should have enough time to exchange views and so on, because if the oldies are always speaking very long, it's bad. If the youngsters are speaking long, it's even more bad, because it should be a dialogue and so on. So far, I will look exactly to my watch here, and after 5 minutes, I will say, stop it. To concentrate on the essentials. You're the first.
Thank you very much. So, ready? Steady?
Ready.
Okay. The future is blue and has golden stars on it. We're more than just Slovenians, Croatians, Serbians, and so on. Today we're all Europeans, and we're living in a world that's more interconnected and globalized than ever. So let's dare to think big. The world is not and shouldn't be enough. Let's aim to succeed globally, and let's not be afraid to fail occasionally. After all, as Churchill brilliantly put it, courage is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. So what do young people in the Balkans and basically all around the world want and aspire to? We want to live in a peaceful environment and in a free society. We want a fair opportunity to do our best and earn decent living. Because there's only one reason: we want to be independent. We don't want our government to run our lives, or our parents for that matter. As eternally enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, we strive for the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's why mobility of young people is one of the greatest gifts of the globalization. So what went wrong? Not much. Although there are many considerable differences between our countries, there seems to be a common denominator. The transition from totalitarian to a free society is far from over. It seems like things have been changing in a way that nothing has really changed. Same old mentality, same old methods, and pretty much same old faces have been prevailing in the last 20 years. Everything became politics, and politics became everything. Governments interfere with almost every aspect of our lives. We live in countries owned by the governments and not the citizens. Remember, only a big and unaccountable government can cause big problems. So what do we need to do? For a functioning democracy, there are a few things to do. We need to build strong but not excessive institutions, starting with a proper rule of law. For better accountability, we need a vibrant civil society and active citizens. For a sustainable and successful economy, we need real and structural reforms. And finally, and this is very important in our region, we need to make peace with our past. Openness to truth and respect for human dignity must lead us to reconciliation and cooperation. So, that's why the only real change might come from the next generation of politicians, the next generation of businessmen, the next generation of intellectuals, and most importantly, the next generation of citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much also for your time discipline. And I can encourage you, please overtake. Mrs. Kengo.
Thank you. So since we are talking about such an important problem, such as the problems regarding the youth and our future, I try to base my speech, so my introduction, on concrete things. And first of all, you will notice that I kind of based it more on my own country, since I guess that's a normal thing, because I'm coming from a country that has a lot of problems when it comes about young people and their situation. And so you will understand that it's not selfish to talk only about your country. This is a great opportunity for Bosnia and Herzegovina and for young people, for all of us, to say what are our biggest problems and to try to make some kind of a cooperation with other countries. So then to come to Western Balkans and to try to resolve these problems. So to start with my first point, which I think is essential, is to recognize the problem. Well, the biggest problem is, of course, as you already heard, is unemployment of the young people. So who takes the blame? First of all, I would like to stress out that the states do not take care enough of young people, and there is a good enough reason and proof for it. For example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, during this year, when it comes about the annual budget and when it comes about planning the amount of money that you will spend on the youth people, it has been decreased for about 60%. So now we are talking about €1 million for young people, which I think we will all agree that if you want to talk about young people and if you want to resolve their problems, then you have to have enough equipment for that, so enough money for that. And this is definitely not enough, especially when comparing to the, for example, 2005 till 2009, I think, when the budget was almost more than 5 million. marks, so that's like 2.5 million euros. So now it is decreasing. Also, we can go on small problems. For example, why don't you allow, as a state, to the young people, for example, to have some kind of discounts? For example, if you want an annual card for bus, then have it on a smaller price. Then if you want some kind of a discount, those are normal things that young people have in countries of European Union that are developed. So in Bosnia and Herzegovina you don't have that, and those are small steps, but by small steps you will change the future. Then again, since we are talking about that they are not enough caring, then it's a normal thing to say that young people will react on that status. Since we are all unsatisfied with the system, then why we don't react? Well, when it comes about the official statistics in Bosnia and Herzegovina, young people obviously do not react, because there is a good way to react when you're not satisfied with the system. You have to involve yourself either in governmental system by entering the political parties, for example, or if you think that's not a good way, if you're not satisfied with the system, then you will involve yourself in a non-governmental system, because the role of the non-governmental organization is, first of all, to correct the government. According to the last official statistics, when it comes about my country, you have 6% of young people that are involved in political parties as members. You have 5% of young people that are part of the youth organizations, and you have about less than 8% of young people who are involved in the non-governmental organizations. So that is not a huge number, and that is definitely not enough if you want to change something. So there is a second point that I wanted to stress out, and that is those passive majority when it comes about young people. Also, what I think it's important to stress out, I will be brief here, is the double standards that we have and norms. So young people think that, at least they learned in the last 2 decades, they think that they can achieve their goals only by money. So basically they are trying the most effective way to gain money. And since we have a country that is not giving you a job and that you have not legitimate way to earn the money, then you go to the criminal organization, and there is another problem of that. And if also, which is followed also, if there is no job in your country, if you don't go to the criminal organization, then there is other way which you can earn money. You go in another country which will give you money. So which is a third problem that we are discussing, and I hope it will be discussed more detailed during the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your straight statement. Only a private remark. You are totally right. Please go to politics and kick them out who are now in charge. But don't tell it. Okay, Ante Gulin is the next.
Okay. I would like to start by also some similar story with Anya already mentioned, because probably we're the smallest country with the biggest problems on the Balkans. So I think that it would be nicer to make the situation which is Macedonia closer to you in order to understand how it works. It was already mentioned from the first speaker that actually the totalism in the countries is far from over, but I don't know how it's introduced in the Europe, but in Macedonia, actually, the totalism is still working somewhere else. But so actually, we have a lot of young people in Macedonia that are immigrating every year in Europe or even in the States. There are a lot of work and travel programs that are offering them work in those countries and maybe even staying there for life. So. What are the problems that we're dealing with in Macedonia? Is first of all the large number of population that is unemployed, not from only the youth, but also from the people that were working sometimes in the past, and now they're not. There are a lot of closed factories and everything. So I think that there's more than 30% in our country that is unemployed, which is quite big rate for a small country as Macedonia. Another thing that is since we got the Bologna system for studies in our country, there are a lot of students that can easily get themselves a master's degree, and in the past 3 to 4 years we have that much master's degree students that all just hope that will find a high position job. So there are a lot of students that don't want to sort of deal with low-paid job in order to somehow gain some work experience and have a career that will go upwards. So another thing that is happening in Macedonia, that with the government program to sort of make the Skopje the main city where everything is placed, and there are a lot of students from the other cities, the smaller cities in Macedonia, that are coming to Skopje. So imagine what will happen, for example, if every students that are studying in Slovenia just come to Ljubljana in order to find a job. You will have a lot of students that are finding a good job, and there are a lot of managers or directors of companies that will have a lot of working students that are easy to replace if, for example, someone does not want to work as they order. So we have a lot of students, a lot of working mass in Skopje, and there are a lot the companies that sort of can choose and replace them easily if they don't want to obey the standards they're giving. So another thing that we have as a problem is that the students are obviously not, and the young people are not obviously aware about the power they have in order to change the future in Macedonia. So a lot of them are ending in the political parties in order to work in public administration. So I think that more than 80% in Macedonia, they have the dream come true if they are employed in the public administration. So we have the public administration, the young people that are actually in the political parties in order to get a certain job that will be well paid. And on the other hand, we have less young people that are aware of the possibilities, for example, to open their own business and to stay in the country and not to go somewhere abroad in order to find a job. One of the main problems that, as I already mentioned, that the main reasons that the young people are not staying in the country is that we have a lot of organizations that are offering the work and travel programs, and a lot of people that didn't manage to sort of find a way in the country are taking this as the only way out, and a lot of them are staying in the places where they're going. So about the other things that I would like to point out, I hope that we'll have an interesting panel discussion in order to answer all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. Madame Martin.
Thank you very much. As has been mentioned already in the introduction, the problems that we are discussing are actually not specific to the Western Balkans. Unfortunately, young people from that region share the fate of some of their other European counterparts. Mr. Buzek mentioned the example of Spain, where youth mass unemployment is heavily mediatized currently. But also in places like Germany, for example, we have spoken of the Generation Praktikum, or the internship generation, in reference to an increasing number of highly educated, highly qualified youngsters who do unpaid work. So actually, some of Europe's most brilliant youngsters would rather work for free than being officially unemployed. Volunteering for them gives access to networks, and it can eventually lead to employment. Nevertheless, the situation in the Balkans does have some particularities, and some of the panelists before have mentioned them. The question we ask, if young people are ready to assume greater political and social responsibilities in the Balkans, well, I think that they are undoubtedly ready to assume greater responsibilities, but has been mentioned by the other panelists, I think that a big question, the real question is, are the ruling political elites of these countries not only ready but also willing to pass on the lead to the next generation? And all the former panelists mentioned that they actually very much doubt it. We observe an increasing phenomenon of partocracy or partitocracy, with political parties being involved or heavily controlling all spheres of society. And some youngsters have gotten very clear messages from potential employers. Well, if you want this job, you would have to be part of that, you would have to be member of this or that political party. It has also been said that young people from the Balkans are increasingly emigrating to other countries to look for better life opportunities. While this is generally true, it also has to be pointed out that the generations before, especially in former Yugoslavia, were also emigrating massively when their country was in better economic shape. So personally, I think that mobility is most probably inherent to human nature. For example, for decades, young Europeans have been told that they need to be mobile, that they need to speak foreign languages, and that they need to be able to integrate very quickly in new environments. And actually, the Erasmus generation is a direct product of that proactive European approach. So why should it be different in the Balkans? Well, actually, I think that mobility needs to be encouraged. It does not need to be refrained, but it needs to be encouraged smartly and also be put in a regulated framework. Actually, research shows that there is very little regional mobility in the Balkans, and I think that providing finance opportunity through, and I specify finance opportunity through specific programs for young people could be a first small step to a bigger, more global solution. Young people, as Ante pointed out, usually look for opportunities in Western Europe or in North America, but very few are tempted to go to neighboring countries to look for jobs, not only because of the lack of jobs there as well, but also because of prejudices and of fears linked to the past. This is unfortunate because I think that a regional approach may have many benefits, and let me conclude on that. I think that it would be an opportunity for young people to counter prejudices, creating links and lasting friendships, and also accelerating the unfinished reconciliation process of the region. Also, because living standards in the region are more comparable than living standards in Western Europe, it would it would be a lesser financial burden for youngsters and their families who eventually have to take money out of their own pocket to partly finance a stay abroad. And finally, I think the approach of regional mobility is and could be attractive to already existing funders, be it political foundations, society funds, or of course the European institutions.
Thank you very much. Stojadinovic, please.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be as quick as possible, and I'll divide my speech into two parts. First part would be diagnosis, and the second part would be therapy. So I can borrow it from the medicine in this case. And also, I would just like to put some ideas for thinking and to mention some bullet points and not to give some scientific analysis or anything similar. So I'll start with diagnosis, and I think that the position of young people, especially in the Western Balkans, is quite difficult. And I think in a way it is even worse than it was when the generation of our parents was young. As someone has already mentioned, they have lived in the time of abundance, and now we are living in the time of scarcity. So improvements are badly needed in labor, in housing, in culture, sport, education, in almost all social spheres. But I would especially emphasize two major problems for the young people, and these are unemployment and emigration or brain drain. Regarding unemployment in Serbia, for example, more than 35% of the unemployed people are under the age of 30, and majority of them are living at their parents' house, and they don't have a job, they don't have their car, they don't have anything, they are dependent of their parents. And regarding internships, for example, internships are unpaid, and if you're not from Belgrade or Novi Sad or Niš, you just have to come to Belgrade to find an internship in the first place, and then you have to cover the accommodation costs and transport costs and everything, and you can't do that because you don't have a salary. So it's a huge problem. Also, regarding immigration, I think that it is estimated that 10,000 PhDs from Serbia originally are living and working in the Western Europe and the United States. 10,000 of them. But also, what is problem is that political people, young people, are politically, in a way, invisible, I would say, and they are not even voting. They are not participating, and there is, as Anya mentioned, some kind of apathy and depression regarding their political participation. And the youth of existing political parties are actually not solving vital issues of the youth, but vital issues of their political parties. So what is the therapy? What are the suggestions? So first of all, I would like to propose that we should organize, when I say we, I mean young people, we should organize better and to create as many as possible non-governmental student organizations, even political parties, why not? And also transnational movements, I would emphasize that, transnational, because I think that not many problems can be solved actually at the national level nowadays. So we now have internet, social media, mass media, everything. We are living in countries which do not, which are actually in visa-liberated regimes. So we can travel and we can make connections and then create a group of people of similar age who would be a strong social force in, that could influence decision makers and defend our interests. And for conclusion, I would like to pose a question, maybe for the audience or for other panelists. And the question is, in what way actually and up to what degree can young people influence all these events and processes, and whether they have to do with the maybe core values of international political and economic order, maybe the nature of today's capitalism, etc. And so whether these issues are actually directly influenced or could be directly influenced by the young people. So it's just a question for thinking. Thank you. I yield the floor back.
Thank you very much also for your final question. We agreed before that we will use some minutes, I think, to have an exchange of views within the panel, and I think it's quite necessary, and I may add maybe a perspective on this. Mainly, every of the comments were focusing on the situation in the own country, not in general, but partly. Understandable. It's fully justified. You are coming from a country, conditions existing, and so on and so on. I think it would be very good that the last comment did it in a certain way. What is the chance of the region of Southeast Europe? Is there enough cooperation on the situation of the younger generation? Or is there an awareness about how the situation is and what the problems of the others are and how can we support it? It is a challenge for you, I think, to start networking or doing it. That's extremely necessary and giving impact. Also, sometimes Europe was mentioned. Maybe the relation of the region to Europe, not only concerning enlargement and so on, so on. This we discussed and you can read it, how the integration is working, because the differences economically and socially and so on are very much existing. And here I may confess, coming from Austria, the knowledge of the central and western parts of Europe about this region are in limits, which is a pity. I think it is elsewhere, and so we don't know exactly. Maybe it's still the Ottoman Empire or whatever. And the third question is, we are living under global conditions, without any doubt, not only concerning the climate or whatever, I think quite more in general. What can be done? Because this might be the chance of the younger generation. So I'm now not giving the floor one after the other. Who wants to start on this?
Let me refer to a comment made by my colleague on my right regarding politicians. Henry Kissinger once famously said that power is the ultimate aphrodisiac. So we can expect that no human being is willingly able to let go the power once he has it. But in democracy, the ruling elite is not the ones to decide whether they'll keep the job or not. So it's up to us. Regarding jobs and growth in our countries, it's no secret what drives growth in Slovenia, Croatia, US, Taiwan, or any place else in the world. The reforms are known to everyone, even to our politicians. What we're lacking is the will, the courage to go forward with it, to basically do a big difference, even for the cost of power. You might be wiped out at the next election because of tough but much needed reforms, but that's something that distinguishes statesmen from politicians. And right now we have too many politicians and too few statesmen.
Thank you very much. Who else wants to wipe out politicians here? Who is starting? Come on, one after the other. No comment? Well,
this is not a hate speech, by the way.
you can follow Stefan has said it.
I just wanted to add something. Someone has mentioned reconciliation. I think that Mark has mentioned it, and I think that it is very important concept and very important aim here in the Western Balkans. I was engaged in research done by Center for Peace Studies regarding Serb-Albanian relations, and we have examined, for example, history textbooks and also literature textbooks, and we have found many stereotypes and myths which are reproduced through formal education. So in that way, I think that also the Ministry of Education from these countries has to deal with this issue in a different way if we want to have generations that are aware of the past, and that could be a channel for reconciliation between these nations. And also, I wanted to add that, in my view, the 21st century in Europe would be the century of intergenerational struggle, in a way. And because there are less and less young people, and even this small number of young people can't even find an appropriate position because all of them have already been taken. So I think that it's not just a matter of economy, but also environment, etc. And we should think about in what conditions would be our planet, for example, when we will leave it to our descendants. So a lot of different issues and problems, I mean, ahead of Europe in this century. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and deep respect for your remarks concerning reconciliation. I think it's extremely important because it lasts long. The first common history book between the French and the German, being closer together since 1945, appeared in 2003. You can see how long the impact of history is really working, and I had to study, and we are doing something by the Center for Democracy and Reconciliation as a subject. Your history books in the region are still a nightmare, because you have maps about bigger Romania, bigger Greece, bigger, whatever you want, and also caricatures and interpretations which are really horrible. It's a long-lasting job, but it's a precondition. I think the Germans and the French managed it after 300 years. I think we Austrians managed it in a certain way with the Italians because we had a problem with South Tyrol. It's looking like that we are slowly starting to manage it concerning our Carinthian Slovenians. I'm always ashamed about this question. I have really to confess it. And maybe I think there is coming out a move of the youth to explain the politicians of Greece and Macedonia that you cannot always concentrate on Alexander the Great. Because this is hindering for sure development. The chief negotiator between Greece and Macedonia, Met Nimitz, a former politician, he was at a certain point in the negotiations fed up and stood up and said, who was Alexander the Great? He was only a great butcher. Then the negotiations were finished, without any doubt. But I think here we are hindering one country here to develop on such nonsense. I think it is a very good business because on both sides, if you are going over the border between Greece and Macedonia, you have a lot of statues of Alexander the Great. It must be a tremendous good business to produce Alexander the Great. Private remark, forget it, and so on. Who else? Mireni.
Actually, I would also like to say a brief comment about reconciliation. There are actually quite a few initiatives dealing with reconciliation in the region. Some very good ones, also some very good ones involving young people, such as the different youth initiatives for human rights in different countries. And they have been greater initiatives which are still on hold, such as the RECOM initiative for reconciliation. So I think that reconciliation is important to tackle directly by speaking about what has been done, but I think also that a part of reconciliation is much more soft and much more subtle. And we will have known that reconciliation has actually taken place when, for example, a young Croat will say to his family, I found a job in Belgrade, or a young Serb will say, well, I'm going to Sarajevo to work, and their families won't say, are you mad? This is when we will know that reconciliation has really worked. Just as in the rest of Europe, it's actually not surprising to see a young French person looking for job opportunities in Germany, for example. And actually, I have a question for Anja, because she mentioned a statistic of 60% of young people in Bosnia being involved in political parties, being members of political parties. Is that what you said? 60%?
6%.
6%, okay, sorry, because I thought it was a huge paradox to have 60% of young people in political parties and no one voting.
Is horrible, but 60% is also But concerning reconciliation, I think it is an internal subject in Bosnia which is not settled. I think you should comment a little bit on this.
Yes, I wanted to. So I guess Bosnia and Herzegovina is the best example when it comes about reconciliations and the actions that we are dealing with in order to achieve that aim. There's a good story, an example from a non-governmental organization where I work. It's a debate center. Debate center that started almost after the war, so 1997, I think, Center for Cultivating Dialogue. After the war, you had a situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina where people living in one country that is in two entities, they are not going from one entity to another. They are not leaving their children to go to study, for example. They are from Republic of Srpska, they are sending them to Serbia, from Bosnia and Herzegovina, well, from Federation, they are basically staying in Federation, or they're going abroad to Europe, etc. And there was a good example, they always tell that so after the war, you had children, basically, so debaters from high school, that we gather on one place. That was the first time when you had a child from, for example, I don't know, from one place in Republic of Srpska that was making a friendship with a child from Federation. It's a good example on how can you make a reconciliation process. It's through work and through integration and through jobs, for example. So debate was a good example, because when you are in debate competition, everything you want to know about the person is how good debater he is, and not what is his name or religion that is in, or etc. So I think the main key for, if you want the reconciliation process on Western Balkans, is through work and is through integration. But the problem is, and I would like to emphasize the issue of will. There is no enough will. And honestly, I don't see the solution for making will through the current politicians. Maybe if we change the system, the things will change, meaning that we change the current governments.
Thank you very much. Please.
Okay, I will, as I can see by the speech of Anja, that the two countries, Macedonia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, are quite simple between them, except we have a lot of Alexander the Great things in our country. And the lack of will is actually the main thing that is getting this reconciliation a hard work to do. As also as in Bein in Macedonia, there are also a lot of young people, I think, that I do not know the certain percentage of it, but there are a lot of young people that are in the political parties. Being in the political party is something like a regime to them, because they're not allowed to, for example, participate in social events. We had actually the first organized protest in Macedonia last year about the murder of young boy by the police. So actually it was the first time after the student protest in 1995 when the young people willingly organized by the Twitter and the social network, the social medias, are at the streets and protesting about something that they actually don't want in their country, about the police brutality, and something that they wanted to change. And we had sort of like resistance from the young people that are participants. They are part of a political party as youth part of the party, and they were sort of like apathic about the thing that not willing to join the protests, because even though it's for their own good, they were afraid that by joining that kind of process about the better future for the young people, they will use a certain possibility to get in order to get a job or to gain some I don't know, a better position in the party when they participate. So I would totally agree with Tanya on this point, that actually in order to have reconciliation, we need more than will. We need something more than, and also more than a new government, because as the time passed from the past, for example, 10 years, the party changed, but the youth is still the same. They're in the parties, they don't have will, they don't want to sort of put the effort in the youth organizations in order to gain something, and there are a small amount of people that actually are volunteering in Macedonia. Everybody wants to find a job, to be paid for it, and so I think that the will is, yes, important, but there's something more that we should make, and I think that's the self-consciousness of the young people and the opportunities, the possibilities they have in order to change the future that is in front of them.
Thank you very much. I think on the second round we gained a lot, not only concerning reconciliation, but also the importance of education, the conditions for education, because that has a lot to do with the future, the possibilities existing. Now there are 35 minutes left, and I think my proposal is now let's go to the audience, because we are speaking about you. It's not the subject from the others. I think we are discussing your future, and I think take it, even to be outspoken on this, and maybe at the end of our panel we can fix some points where something has to happen. Who wants to start? Icebreaker, who is the first? Oh, great. Ladies first. A micro.
Thank you.
Please be so kind, present yourself.
Hello, I'm Bistra. I'm representing Challenge Future, a community of 24,000 members all over the world. More important to the today's topic about Western Balkans, I'm Macedonian. I studied in Slovenia for 2 years, and I'm usually happy to go back to Macedonia to take photos with all those monuments of Alexander the Great. What I wanted to open as another topic within the framework of today's agenda is more on the side of the unemployed youth and the skills they have. What Ante suggested, said in his first presentation, was that Macedonians' unemployment is reaching a rate of 30%. However, in the recent report I read by the International Labour Organization, actually Bosnia was noticed as one country that has the highest rate of entrepreneurial spirit among youth, meaning the highest number of self-employed young people. And sadly, Macedonia has 22% of highly educated people, young people who are unemployed. So, people go to the faculty, they graduate, master studies, everything of that was already said. But what is missing? Do those people, the unemployed people, have the skills required by the labor market? Another report I read within the Challenge Future community, it was shared a lot, It gave a list of 10 crucial skills of future workforce. And I will just name 2 or 3 of them so that you get the picture. Number 1, sense making. Number 2, digital illiteracy. Number 3, cross-cultural competency. Number 4, design mindset. So my question to the panel, I don't have a concrete person to ask, but is how much does formal education today, especially higher education, address or at least touch these crucial skills of future workforce? How much the people in the higher education get the needed knowledge and skills? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dan. I'm also representing Challenge Future. And I want to congratulate you first for your very well speeches. But I would like to ask first Mr. Adrianic. I'm from Romania, so I have a little bit of hard time to get it right.
You did it correctly. Thank you.
I like very much that you focused on what needs to be done, on what are the problems, but I would like to hear more how to do it. For example, proper institutions, you mentioned it, and the current institutions, they don't want to let go of the power. So how can we achieve that? This is the first question, and I have one question for Mrs. Genko. You mentioned the 6% of people in Bosnia that are involved in politics. And the question is, if that percentage would be higher, would that be better or worse? Meaning, would they be able to change a little bit the system, to change it more, or they will comply more in order to get to the benefits that this political system provides? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your precise question. I think please take a note. Something might come together, otherwise I think we have not enough time for the audience. But I cannot see anybody. You are all satisfied with your situation. That's nice.
There's someone.
So the background.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry for my height. You probably can't see me here, but I hope you could at least hear me. My name is Miha Pongrac. I study at the University of Southern Denmark. My question is related to the statement that we heard in the beginning, saying that the future is bright with yellow stars, with golden stars. I was a little bit bothered by this statement, mainly from the fact that it is believed that the talks between the Western Balkan states and the European Union are creating too much of a momentum for the youth in the future, that they will have too high of expectations that the European Union is sort of El Dorado, a Babylon that can save the youth in the Western Balkans. How do you comment on this question of mine? And most importantly, do you believe that the youth in the Western Balkans should really go just west, or should it go also east? Thank you.
May I ask, what do you mean by east?
To migrate also not just to European Union countries, but also to the
That's okay,
more prosperous
but the possibilities
countries.
are from Russia to China, India, and so on and so on.
You can pick you can pick the geographic region yourselves. I'm not limiting here. I'm just not limiting towards the Western world, to the concept of the Western world, so the EU and the USA, but towards maybe rising Asian tigers, the Arabic world, and so on.
So far, I think we are pushing Afghanistan and Iraq aside for the moment. Okay, thank you. I would give to 2, please, milady. Here. And also 2 girls, great.
Hi, my name is Anna Englinker and I'm here from Slovenia. We heard a lot about this problem of unemployment and how people migrate, and there's a lot of brain drain going around. But what I'd like to hear from the panel is your views on who the onus is, who the onus falls on to change this. If we take into account the situation where our governments aren't realistically going to give in to massive changes and massive incentives for people who do migrate to come back, is the onus then on the individual, so the young workforce, to turn around and come back after a few years? Should governments be more restrictive in their policies? Might help. But like, who the onus is on? So is it on young people interested in politics to come back to their countries to get more involved in politics, because we see massive migrations from that field? Is the onus on young business people to come back from areas in which their businesses are more likely to thrive, or should governments set around giving some kind of policies that will limit visas going abroad? Because we talk a lot about this being a problem, but without any kind of solution, just simply sitting around expecting and hoping governments to be kind of nicer and entice us back hasn't actually proved to be a particularly successful situation. So whilst I agree that would be the optimal situation, what do you think is the most likely thing to happen under the status quo?
That's addressed to all of the panel. Okay? Here, the next, please.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Mila Tanaskovic. I come from Serbia. I am alumni of the Diplomatic Academy in Vienna, but today I'm representing the Regional Forum for International and Strategic Studies. And as I heard now at the panel, you all mentioned the problems of networking and engaging of young people in the region of Western Balkans. My question to all of you is, because I've noticed that you all come from faculties of law, faculty of political science, and so on. So on this institutional level, do you think that there is a cooperation among countries? Because if we want to start, we should start from this basic level. So is there, do you think that there is enough that is going on this institutional level? So then we can actually proceed on a non-governmental level, youth organizations, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
I think 5 comments, questions, and so on and so on. Who wants to start to give an answer? Please, be so kind.
So regarding the question that was addressed to me about the 6% of young people who are involved in politics. Well, when I was talking about that issue, I was talking about possible alternatives. So the possible alternatives of changing things. If you're not satisfied with the system, you have to change it. So there is one alternative: involve more in the politics, be part of the political parties, and maybe you could be, perhaps, I mean, you have to try, maybe you will be enough reasonable, your voice will be enough strong in the parties to lobby for new projects, for example, for young people, for new decisions, and etc. Then again, if you think that doesn't work, or you think there is no political party that will allow you that there is no enough, let's say, democratic political party, then try with another alternative, that is non-governmental organization. Because I always say non-governmental sector is a correction of governmental sector.